my name is Beth Hiley here for Board Game Geek at Comic Cons at Home. I'm sitting with Jason Snyder from Game Right, and you've brought us another excellent roll and write title called Metro X, or I should say a flip and write title.
Yes, a flip and write from Hisashi Higashi, renowned Japanese game designer, who we published a game of his a few years ago called Rolling America, which everybody really loved. It was one of those thinky fill-in the United States with different numbers according to adjacency. And I've always had a keen eye on his design flair for these roll and write games. So when the Japanese version of Metro X came out, I immediately emailed them and said, I want a copy of this. And sure enough, I was like, yes, this is definitely another great Game Right game. So we worked on bits together, and we mostly published the game as it was created, the Japanese version. We made some tweaks for the US audience, and I think the biggest tweak that we made, my only issue with the original one is I felt like the pads were really small, and I didn't think the color distinctions were great enough for the average game player to figure out what line was what line. So we pumped up the color, and we made the boards bigger and made them right erase. But other than that, a little tweaks here and there, but mostly what we've got is a really engaging, easy to learn to play, easy to play flip and write game. So a roll and write, but instead of rolling dice, you're flipping cards to determine what you're going to be doing during the rounds. So great, thanks for the setup. So we've got in the game, it can be played from 1 to 6 players. There's a solo mode, but it's all, again, so it's a simultaneous solitaire game. But I always like playing these games against other people, just to that moment at the end where you can like best your opponent. Like, I kicked your butt at this game. I definitely was able to do it better than you were. So, so in each game, every player gets a write erase board. Every player also gets a write erase pen, and then a card guide that tells you about the different moves in the game, as well as the penalty table for the end game. So that would be used as the end game, and then the transit card actions, which apply to the different transit cards. Because the engine of this game is this transit card deck, which just has numbers from, well, it's got a couple of extra features in it, but the numbers go from 1 to 6 in it. So there's a 15-card deck that gets shuffled up. And then one at a time, each of those is going to get turned over, and then all players are going to simultaneously fill in their boards to try to get the best position for their train cards. Ooh, I like the green screen. I was taking effect. Nice. You can see right through the card. Oh, that's awesome. We got to if only we make that for real. Got to talk to a factory and see if I can do that. So there's some skips. There's some 4s. Exactly. So I would say let's jump in and get playing. And the best way to do it is to shuffle up that deck of cards. I've got a game here in front of me as well, too. So I figured maybe we would each person could pick up and play. But to do it, why don't we explain what the boards look like? So maybe a close-up of the board, and then we can kind of get into it. Excellent. Ooh, I see the lines that are going to be not green screen friendly. Great. All right, so let's just take a look at the board. So let's focus on the left side of it. You see train lines, the A through the I line going down the left side of the board. And then next to each train line is a set of numbers. So you've got a number in yellow and a number in white. That indicates the points that the player is going to get for being the first to finish that line, meaning the first to X out all of the circled station spots on that line. The first player gets the points on the left. And then on the white box next to that is everybody else can get those points. So if you complete that second, third, fourth, fifth, or sixth, you get the points on the left. So for the A line, if I'm the first to get it, I get 2 points. Every other player gets 1 point for completing it. To the right of those numbers are the subway trains. And those trains have either 2 or 3 windows on it. So looking at the B train, that's the second one down the orange line, that's got 2 windows in it. But then the C train right below it, the pink line, that's got 3 windows in it. And we'll get to what that means in a second. And then just moving further over to the right, you've got a bunch of stations. So all these stations with all intersecting train lines going on them. And you're going to be filling them in from left to right, starting with the leftmost of each train and then moving to the right. All right, let's, now that we've got that, each player takes their board in front of them, make sure that it's erased, and then we can get into it. So the cards have been shuffled. They're going to go into the middle of the playing area. And then one player is going to randomly just draw a card and put it face up into the playing area so that all players can see. So Let's turn over the top card, and it's a 3.
3.
Okay, so all players will now simultaneously write down that number 3 in an open train car window. So I'm going to very visibly say that I'm going to put it in the A train, and number 1 up there on the top. I'm going to put 3, but you're not going to be telling your opponents where you're going to put it. You're going to write down that number in one of the open train car windows, and then starting with the leftmost open station space on that line, you're going to X out that number of spaces, so 3 to be exact. And by the way, we're playing on the Metro City line. If you wanted to show, I see at the top of the screen there's some maps that are flipped over to the opposite side. There's an alternate game you can play. You can play the Tubetown map if you want to, but again, for a starter game, it's best that you play Metro City, which is on the side that you seem to be playing with right now. Thanks for doing that. So once everybody's flipped over, when everybody filled in all 3 spaces, starting from the left, then the next player will turn over the next card from the transit deck. And it's a 3 skip. Oh, wow, this is great. So this is also, you're going to fill in the number 3 somewhere on your left, one of those train car windows that are open. But instead of filling in from left to right, you may skip over open spaces that are in the way of that train. And early in the game, a skip is not so great, but later as the game progresses on, it gets more important to have skips because you're going to get boxed in places where you have to stop. Ordinarily, you'd have to stop if you reach an X on another train line, but a skip allows you to skip over that crossed off X. So right now, just write down that 3 into one of those spaces. So I'm going to put it here on my pink line.
Where this map is really cleverly designed, because as you might be drawing on the pink line, say, you're also filling in a square or 2 on the green line, the I line. And that's going to cause the green to have sort of this hiccupy pattern to it. And that's where the skip is really going to help you fill in those holes. You're thinking like, well, if you always start from left to right.
That's exactly the right phrase to use. It really, you get stuck for a moment, and then using a skip can get you over that hiccup.
Because you hadn't said so, Jason, but I'll stop talking, so I'll keep going. If you do have, let's say you had 2 empty holes and the card said 4, and unfortunately, and it's just a regular old 4, you'd only be able to fill in 2 squares. The rest of that card would just be wasted. So that's why you kind of strategically wait for some skips sometimes to see if you can use them optimally to get the maximum amount out of every card.
Exactly right. Exactly right. All right, so everybody's filled in their 3, and then we flip again. And we've got a 4. So again, fill in a 4 somewhere. And you guys are going to have to, since I can't hear you, or maybe I think there's a microphone there, you have to say when you've completed a line, because when the first person completes a line, that's going to be unavailable to all other players.
Sure.
Did I do that wrong?
I'm good.
I don't know.
Yeah, Lincoln and Nick, you actually both skipped a square on your first 3.
I changed it. Yeah, I noticed that I had that incorrect. It was red, so I
was wondering, how did you do that?
Been several. I bought this in Japan at Tokyo Game Market and haven't played it since then. It's been a while since I played it.
And Jason, I'm wondering, in the interest of time, if maybe we can force the deck a little bit to show some of the other unique cards.
For sure. So why don't we pick out, if you can find in there, a transfer card.
Transfer.
Perfect. And to help illustrate the transfer card, would you mind pulling your board and putting up closer to the camera so I can show the detail of what it means for a transfer? Great. So when a transfer card comes up, you're going to do just the reverse of what you've been doing. Instead of putting a number in one of the train car windows, you're going to put an X in that train car window. And then instead, wait, don't, you know where you're going, right? Well, I was going to say, let's see if we can find the optimal space to put this, because there might be a great, I'm thinking maybe the G line might be the best place to put this.
The G line.
Okay.
And actually it is. So you're going to put on the G line. Then you're going to start with the leftmost space and find the leftmost open space on that line and stop right there when you find it. So go down the G line until you have the first open space. Yeah. Boom. In that space, instead of putting an X, you're going to put a number. And the number you're going to put in that space is 2 times the number of train lines going through that space. So count the number of train lines going through that space. And I believe it should be
5.
4 or 5.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
And the orange is
Is it
5.
4?
Oh yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exactly. Yep.
Yep. So 2 times that number you're going to write in there.
Bam.
And if you want to just look down there, if you can go next to this, the end of the game is going to be the total of your completed lines plus bonus transfers. That's 10 bonus points right there.
Neat.
Minus any empty spaces that you didn't fill in at the end of the game. So it's that combination, and that's what the transfer. You can optimize. Like you have the most ideal place to put that transfer. Like that is the highest point right there in the game. So good on you, Lincoln. You know exactly what you're doing.
Oh yeah.
Lincoln does have a bit of a conundrum now for his G line because he's filled up all the spaces in his train car.
That's correct.
Yep. So you're going to be getting some minus points for a bunch of that G line, but you can see like only that line, only a couple of them are going to be empty. Hopefully you can fill them in
from other things filled in.
Lines as the game
Right now I've got a plus 1.
Oh boy.
So I have 9 unfilled spots. 1, 2, 3,
9,
4,
well,
6, 7, 8, 9. So yeah, some of them might get filled in by others. These 2 will not.
Yep.
And this one will not.
Well,
right.
I
So
think
you hope
that's
that you plan well that you
nice-
can sort of mitigate that at penalty because you can put that you can put this back away now.
Yep.
You can put your card back
Because there's
down.
another
And
card
then,
that might be able to help out Lincoln with his G line, which is a free card.
That's true. Yep. So the next one is the free cards. That's a free space. You don't have to fill in a train car window for that. You just get to put an X anywhere you want on your board. That's awesome.
Even if it's jumping this one here, just put an X
it's
right
a free
here.
space.
Yay,
It's like
that'll help.
free space you get. And then the last card that we can show from the transit deck is the 6. Yes.
Oh.
So with the 6, you get to fill in 6 X's, so you could really make a line go far. There's only 1 in the deck, but after everybody fills in their line with up to 6, then you take the entire discard pile and you shuffle it with the draw pile to start a new deck again. So depending on when that comes up in the game, you can get a lot of different cycles of those frees. There's only 1 free in the game. There's only 1 6. There's a couple of a couple of transfers.
The first time I played this, our 6 came up at such a time that we actually had an entire game with no skips.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah,
That was frustrating.
It was rough. Yes, it was. But the fact that I came back and have played this quite a few more times tells me, hey, this is probably still a very good game.
And that's the point. I think the first time I've seen this like almost 100% playing this game that people play for the first time like, okay, I completely screwed that up, but I want to play again immediately. So it's like got that real like, okay, I know what I should have done and I didn't do it, but I got to try it again. And it's got that quality to it that you really want to give it another shot. And then we put 2 different maps in the game because after you finish one version of it, you're like, oh, let's try something different. You can just flip it over to the other side and play it. And it makes it a little trickier because it's non-linear. So you can't really see as easily where all the train lines start and they end. Ooh, it looks almost like animation, the way that the hands are underneath it. Looks like the train lines are moving. That's awesome. Love it. Bonus.
Accidental awesome.
Here's the here's the original sheets.
Yes.
So they're very tiny comparatively, you know.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
So yeah.
So and there's a solo mode. You can play by yourself, which is really
Neat.
great because again, this is a simultaneous solitaire game that you can just play by yourself, and the rules are the same, but you're only going to be circling the gold, the left side of each of the 2 possible scoring cards, and then there's a chart in the rules that tells you, depending on your final score, how well you did. You total up, and you're either like, if you can get 50 or more, you're a genius. Which it's really tough. I will say that it's a very challenging game, especially with the luck of when those cards come up. But then also being able to plan out your routes, it really requires some advanced planning of thinking through like, okay, well, there's only 2 train windows open here. If I don't finish the line with that, like what happened to Lincoln, I'm out of luck there. So yeah, it's got this really nice thinky, but very easy to get into and out of.
Yeah. And this is available now, too, as well, correct?
Shipping right now, yes. In stock, available at your fine local game stores, available online, anywhere you buy games.
Well, Jason, as always, thank you for letting us show, actually for real, a few terms of Metro X, which is the rail and write game.
Yes. Sorry, I can't pass up a good pun. So
Nor should you.
yes.
Well, we appreciate you taking
took
the
that
time,
train.
and thank you again.